This is Murder in the Morning with Tony Bruschi and Stacey Cole.
It's Stacey Cole and Carol Hughes. Carol's filling in for the vacationing Mr. Tony Bruschi this week. And a lot of stuff happening in the true crime world. This one isn't necessarily about murder, but we have been following the 8 passengers fallout. That is Ruby Franke and Christine Hildebrandt. How my brain is going. Is that the right name? I think
Jodi.
Jodi. Got Christine on the brain today for some reason. Yes, Jodi Hildebrandt. Well, the story of Ruby Franke and her divorce from Kevin Franke was official, I believe, this week. Marks the legal end to the marriage that once played out in front of millions on YouTube. I can't imagine putting your marriage out there for everybody to see, how that can end well. You know, not just what happened in this case, but when you let people that much into your lives, I think you're asking for it. Does that seem like a fair assessment?
Yeah, and I agree, because I think it kind of changes who you are as a person. And I see these people frequently, and it's all about content and creating content. And I watched part of the documentary on Hulu, and that was fascinating. How that all got started and how it affected the kids, and how the kids felt they were always talking to a camera and not having proper interactions with their own parents. You know, it was all about the camera. It was all about the views. It was all about all of that stuff that really isn't important, but it was making them a serious amount of money. And so that basically became the job, was to create content and be 8 passengers.
God. Yeah. You know, and we saw this with Ozzy Osbourne and his family. And I feel like they were one of the first ones, weren't they?
I think so. And, you know, and the difference, I think, in that case was, you know, he was famous. So, you know, that family was used to being looked at differently. This was just a regular Mormon, I think they're Mormons, Mormon family, who she just gets it in her head that she wants to be famous on YouTube. And she became quite famous. And it's just interesting to me how everything just warped and turned. And I think she became obsessed with this whole YouTube thing, then starts having problems with their son, and then turns to Jodi for help. And then the rest of it just went off the rails.
Yeah, and it did. And I think Jodi had far too much influence in their lives.
Oh, absolutely. In her life, anyway. And then she convinces her husband.
That's right. Yeah, she had a real hand in the dissolution of this marriage. Now, you know, we don't know if there was anything going on between the two women. That's not really for us to talk about, but there was definitely a very influential relationship there of some sort. But now the marriage is over. Kevin and Ruby are done. It's on paper. The marriage began in 2000, 6 children. It was broadcast through a curated lens on the 8 Passengers channel. That's over. And the real story, of course, isn't the divorce. It's the fact that Kevin is now the sole legal guardian of the 4 remaining minor children, kids who were until recently trapped in an abusive nightmare behind those closed doors of the so-called parenting enterprise. So how did we get here? Back in August 23 is when the illusion broke. One of the children, the Franke children, emaciated, injured, and desperate, escaped out of a window of the home of Jodi Hildebrandt in Ivins, Utah. That home wasn't a safe house. It was a crime scene. The boy went to a neighbor's house asking for food and water, and what they saw led them to call police immediately, thank goodness. Authorities later found his sister in a very similar condition. The 2 women, Ruby Franke, and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt, were arrested and eventually admitted to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony. And according to Washington County Attorney Eric Clark, the kids have been kept in conditions described as concentration camp-like. We're talking about extreme malnutrition, severe injuries, physical injuries, and emotional torment. Ruby Franke is now serving at least 4 years in a Utah state prison with 4 consecutive sentences of 1 to 15 years each. She's admitted to a range of abuses, including torturing her son, dunking his head underwater, forcing him into strenuous physical tasks, making both children stand in direct sunlight for long periods without food or water. It wasn't just tough love, it was cruelty, systemized and delivered under the pretense of discipline. Yeah.
I mean, this could we could be talking about murder. Those kids were so abused. And you see the video in that documentary of him going to the neighbor's house, and this poor boy is so thin.
Yeah.
You know, this could have been a murder case. I think it could have been like within weeks.
Easily. Yeah, and don't forget the duct tape around their ankles.
Yes.
And wrists. Yeah. And the wounds and things that kids should not be dealing with. Kevin, under the agreement, also agreed not to pursue child support from Ruby, effectively considering anything owned already paid. Under the agreement, he walks away with full custody, their Springville home, which is 2.8 acres. Oh, I'm sorry, and a 2.acre property in Schofield. Ruby gets to keep $85,000 she withdrew before they split, but the rest of the couple's joint financial accounts go to Kevin, with the exception of an investment account in her name. God, I wish I had $85,000 to withdraw.
I don't get that. I don't get that. Like, he should have all of that. He has to pay for these kids, feed them, get them to school, all the expenses that go through kids, food, clothing, college, if that's what they want to do. And she gets to keep $85,000 after what she did?
Yeah. And if that's YouTube money, I think that's money the kids should have.
Is a
kind
YouTube
of a restitution of sorts.
I'm thinking in one part of that, they said there was they got up to the $100,000 a month range. And that's a lot of money.
Wow.
But maybe for Kevin, it was easier, and I would understand this too, to be fine because you want it over. Keep it. I don't give any shits.
Yeah.
You know, I can work. I can make money. And he's got the house and everything. But, you know, I feel like the kids will be safe with him. I don't think, you know, he has full custody. I hope she doesn't ever get to see him again.
Well, both Ruby and
adults.
Jodi, they accepted plea deals and they each face up to 60 years behind bars. So I think they're pretty safe that the kids at least will be well into adulthood before mom gets out, before she has a chance to have any influence in their lives again, ever.
It's
I would
so sad.
assume that they've cut off contact with her, I would think. You know, these kids are going to be in therapy for the rest of their lives, rightfully so. But one of the things that we questioned early on, and again, we are outsiders. We don't know what happened really, you know, inside these walls. But I guess I just wondered why Dad, I'm not going to say allowed this to happen. That's not what I mean. But why he just let Ruby walk off with the kids and do whatever.
You know, he does kind of address that. And I didn't watch the entire documentary because my Hulu's always messing up. Like, I'm on for a while and then it just knocks me off and I can't get back on. I don't know what's up. But anyway, he kind of addresses that. I think he has some, especially when he was younger, some of his own issues, like trying to be the person she wanted him to be. And I think she kind of ran the show and he did what she wanted him to do. I think the relationship became quite dysfunctional. And I don't know that he saw what he was doing. Or maybe he didn't even think he could do anything.
So he felt trapped by her too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now I think I'm sure hopefully he's gotten some mental health help, but I think now he seems like he is in a good place to care for these kids. And he sees it differently now. I think, you know, so often in a relationship, the screws tighten very slowly in a dysfunctional relationship. And you can start off and it's happy and it's fun and it's everything. And then that person just kind of slowly changes, and you kind of are slowly changing and you don't realize what you're doing either, then you get to a point where if you do say anything, there's hell to pay. So then you're walking on eggshells. Let's just say I am describing my parents' relationship.
Yeah.
But you know, it was really difficult. And so my dad's always walking on eggshells. My mom's running the house in not a good way. And I could see how you could get sucked into that and not even always know that it's not an excuse maybe, but I see how it can happen.
Well, it's that slow boil, you know. You don't notice it. Excuse me. Yeah, it's hard to sit back and criticize him. You know, he did the best he could at the time.
And she, I think she was, whatever she said went for a long time, and she was making all the money with this YouTube channel, and you don't want to rock that boat. And to rock the boat, you're going to rock her. Oh, it's just sad.
If she was capable of this kind of evil with the kids, who knows the kind of crap she was pulling on him.
Absolutely. Agreed.
You're locked into the Hidden Killers podcast.
Want more? Start binging on all of our true crime podcasts right now through Apple Podcasts and get an ad-free experience when you sign up to be a True Crime Today Premium Plus member exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast dropping soon.
Press subscribe now.